morning from Budapest. Hey! So, I just got done a free walking tour. I think it was pretty cool. That behind me is the Parliament of Budapest. It is the third largest parliament in the world. The lady didn't mention which one's the first or the second, but it's pretty huge and impressive. Apparently, because Hungary's been having a lot of kind of shitty history with the wars, they've lost all the revolutions and wars they've been involved in, so when they finally became a democracy, they wanted to show it, so by building like that parliament. So they spent a lot of money in it and like 17 years worth of construction. But yeah, love it here so far. Hey! So, it's late afternoon in Budapest and this is my first day of touring the city done. So basically what I did was I started the day off with a walking tour. It was about 3 hours long. It was really cool. She took us to some of the main sites. I'm really happy that she took us to Buda. So Buda and Pest are two parts of the city that are across of each other from the river. And Buda is the pretty part where the hills are and where you can go up to the palace and basically get a really cool view of Budapest. So that was nice, and she gave us some really interesting facts about, you know, Hungary and Budapest and like a short summary of the history of Hungary and all that jazz. So really cool. And then from there, while I was up there, I visited a church that was there. It was really cool. And then I had lunch. I had some Hungarian food, really good. Then I went to a synagogue. It's a really famous synagogue here. They also do guided tours in a synagogue. And so it was really interesting. I learned a lot about Hungarian Jews and their basically like their history and what happened with them during the World Wars. And the tour guide made a really interesting point about the fact that what happened to the Hungarian Jews, the fact that 600,000 of them died. I mean, yes, the Nazis were responsible for their deaths, but really he was saying he's not trying to deny the history of his country. He was Hungarian. That they were the ones who did it to them. Like, they were the ones who set up the ghettos. They were the ones who let the Nazis have the railway so that they could deport the Jews to Auschwitz. So it was really interesting to see him make it a point that it was Hungary that did this. Hungary wanted to support Germany in the World Wars, and they did it at the cost of their Jewish population. So in the synagogue during World War II, during Nazi rule, there is a square in there that became the Budapest ghetto. So like 70,000 people were crammed, 70,000 Jews were crammed in there, and a lot of them died from starvation or from the cold, and they were left there. So when the Soviets came to liberate them, they found all these bodies, and then they basically set up 24 mass graves in that area. And so it's still there today, and you can see them, and including names of only some of the people who were identified. A lot of them remained unidentified. And then there's also a really cool memorial to the victims, two memorials to the victims there. One was like this tree thing that's supposed to represent an upside down menorah. And the leaves on the trees are the names of the victims, identified or unidentified. So if they're unidentified, there'd be like an empty one. And then there was a mosaic created by a Holocaust survivor, like a colorful one, with the names at the bottom. There are names of the people who, not necessarily Jewish people, or people who helped save a lot of the Hungarian Jewish population by, you know, providing them safe houses from the Nazis. Yeah, and then from there I went to the Basilica, so that's actually what's right here behind me. And I toured it, and there's an interesting relic inside. It's the hand of Saint Stephen, who's basically the founder of the Hungarian state, like his mummified like right fist is in there, and which is kind of weird, but it reminds me of the church in Valencia, which has a similar relic. It has like a mummified whole right arm of some saint, I don't remember anymore. But yeah, I was like, oh yeah, this is not the first time I've seen this. And yeah, it's also a really cool church. The tour guide this morning made this really cool point that, so not the basilica, but also the synagogue and the St. Matthias Church that I was up, the first one I visited up the hill, they all have a blend of different architecture styles, for one reason or another. So like, to me they all look the same and the names are not super recognizable. So like, I know the basilica has a mixture of neoclassicism and neo-renaissance, and then in the synagogue there's a more style architecture on the outside, but then the inside looks like a church, and then because of that Orthodox Jews won't actually worship in there, which is kind of interesting. And the same for the St. Matthias Church. I remember it had a mix of styles, I don't remember anymore, like romantic and something else, which is pretty cool to see in Budapest. Like, interesting that all these religious houses have the same sort of thing going on, which is the blend of architecture. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna stop talking in public now and figure out what I'm gonna do next. So I'm at the market here in Budapest, and I got a picnic's worth of local fruits, including nectarines, plums, apricots, so blackberries. So I'm a happy clown.
Also, this is a Hungarian chocolate roll. It's basically like a cinnamon roll but with chocolate. Already almost done. It's so good.
So I didn't get up to too much today. This morning I wanted to go to one of the thermal baths, the really famous thermal baths here in Budapest, but I had to cancel my plans because the weather this morning was really cloudy and kind of cold. So I had breakfast and then chilled in the hostel and waited for the weather to get better, basically. Breakfast was cool because I opened a conversation with the two girls who were sitting next to me at the cafe, and they were from Denmark and they were super chatty and nice and friendly, so that was cool. I had someone to talk to over breakfast. And then when I left in the afternoon, I had lunch at a really cool place, and then I went to the food market, and that was really cool because that's when I got the fruit and stuff. And actually also before that, I was walking on the street and I happened to pass by so many used bookstores, and they were all beautiful. It was like I was doing a bookstore crawl. There must be a reason why they're all on the same street, but because I don't know, it was just beautiful and no one's told me about it before. I hadn't read it about it anywhere, but they looked really cool. And so the rest of my plans for today include hiking up to that statue. Can you see it? That one over there, which is Liberty statue, which is interestingly enough was a statue that was part of the communist era here in Hungary, and when they became liberated they tore down most of the communist era statues except for that one because the Hungarian people liked it so much, so they repurposed it, and it's called the Liberty statue, and it like symbolizes their freedom from communist rule. So yeah, apparently the views are supposed to be nice from there, and I'm basically waiting for sunset because I'm on the Buda side of the town, which is where the hills are and the views are, and there's supposed to be a really nice like view of the sunset. So yeah, and oh, I forgot to mention, last night was really interesting. I went out with the staff of the hostel to a bar first, and then we went to a ruined pub. It was cool. We definitely didn't have enough alcohol to like be at the same vibe as everybody else at the club, but it's very interesting, a really cool interior. So ruined pubs here in Budapest are basically pubs, like converted, abandoned breweries or stuff like that. They were converted into pubs, so they just got so many different rooms, so much mismatched furniture. Like, there's no rule to what the interior looks like. It's just whatever it is, whatever the furniture is, that's what it is. So there's some really cool things to see in there, and so there's many of them. So we went to one, and the plan is that the staff want to go back tonight, except with after having drank a lot more alcohol than last night. So we'll see. Yeah, that might be fun. And actually, one more note on the hostel. It's so cool. It's a house repurposed into a hostel, and so it's a very open concept. The room that I'm in is basically the living room repurposed into a bedroom, so it's 8 beds. You don't really have much privacy, but it somehow isn't a problem because it's just so cozy in there, and I don't know, the vibe is really chill, and I love the staff. I really love the staff there. They're like just people who work there in exchange for living for free, so they're all young, and just really cool, really cool to bond with. So yeah, I definitely recommend that hostel in Budapest. It's called Mandala Hostel.
No, don't fuck. I do not.
No, I have one. Come on, you can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we looking at?
Palinka.
Okay, and how much, what's the content?
37.5, I think.
And there's
But this is one of the weaker ones. They go right up to 80%. Yeah.
Whatever. No. So last night was really fun. I went out to party with the hostel staff. But this morning I woke up early to get to the baths. So I went to the Syczenie bath. I chilled there for about 2 hours. Really cool. Tried all the thermal baths and stuff. Didn't do much. Lazed through for the next few hours after. Like went back home, got a shower, blah blah blah. Now I'm exploring the parts of the town that I still have to do to check some things off my list. This is my last night here. So gonna, you know, hopefully have a good time. I would definitely spend more time here if I could, but Vienna's calling. This is the Ruin Bar, and it's the most famous one in Budapest. It's called Zipla. And so this is basically the idea that every room is weird and bizarre and different, but it just works. It's really cool. That's a castle! Whoa! I knew I was coming to see a castle in this park, but I wasn't expecting this. This is huge. such a beautiful castle and a beautiful park. The castle's now used as a museum and stuff. I think like 2 museums. It's also a concert venue, which is pretty cool. I saw like a schedule for like opera, for orchestra performances here. It's cool. Fun fact, something I noticed while I was here is that there is a World Aquatic Championship going on right now called FINA, F-I-N-A. And it's happening here in Budapest, and I think I just stumbled upon one of the venues, or the main one. I don't know if it's one venue or many, but this is definitely a venue. So that's interesting. When I was at the bath today, they were streaming the 4x200 meter like relay. Russia won that one. This is the Hero Square, so it's where they got like commemorative statues of the people who founded Hungary, I guess, or also who were involved in liberating it. I'm not exactly sure. I'm just guessing that from Hero Square, you know, it's heroes. With the Hero Square behind me, I'm now walking on the Budapest version of the Champs-Élysées. So that monument behind me is really interesting. It was erected by the Hungarian government to symbolize to mourn the German occupation of Hungary. But then all those signs that you see in front are basically how the Hungarian Jews have their form of protest to remove the statue, because they're accusing the government of trying to rewrite history with that statue and say that, and basically imply that the Hungarian government was the victim of German occupation, when really they were responsible for what happened to the Jews, because they willingly gave Germany control. So that's a really, really cool way to protest. Kudos to them, seriously, it's awesome. The shoes behind me are called the Shoes of the Danube, and they commemorate those who were shot into the river by the Air Cross militiamen in Hungary towards the end of World War II.